Okay, so thank you for joining us today. Today we're gonna discuss fashion through the decades. I think learning about fashion history is really important as the industry and like styles are evolving every day. So we're gonna discuss from the 1950s to today.
Hello, everyone. So today I'm going to be discussing for the slide of the 1950s. And the reason why this era is so important is because a lot of new innovative designs came out and we still see them today. So during in Paris in the 1950s, Dior came up with the new silhouette, which is something that's like very cinched at the waist and, with the full A-line skirt. So when that started, it kind of started a whole new trend called the new look. And then it came over to the US and women started wearing all those styles and trends of having a cinched waist. And also for the men, for some reason, pop culture and films took such a big impact that whatever the younger youth started to see was the clothing was mostly catered to them. So like Marlon Brando, and other actors, they started wearing the jackets and the jeans and technically like the greaser look. So that's when you started to see like an evolution of young men wearing the same outfits, the t-shirts and jeans. And while the women, they weren't trying to be as casual as the men, but for some reason, they thought that by having more femininity and looking uniform together, that's how they were able to express that, they were feminine. So for around a while, the women started to use cigarette capri trousers, pencil skirts, and beaded cardigans, the bobby socks, A-line silhouettes. They used tailored made clothing. Some of them even used like the hourglass silhouette. They also used jeans, lots of jeans, a lot of jackets. They also used like there's this trend called the teddy boy style, which is where they started to look more formal than what you would see at high school with the kids wearing jeans and their t-shirts, their white t-shirts. So technically the white t-shirts and the jeans was directed for the working class. Meanwhile, the higher class, they started wearing, more uniform clothing, elegant trousers all together. But over time, you kind of see that some of these designs, we kind of still see them today, but even so, it's evolving over time. And I like these pictures because it just shows that everybody that was in the States, and no matter race, color, or gender, they were all, styling the same clothes back then. So this just gives you more of an insight of what they were wearing. Also, for some women, they thought that the shorts, if like, I don't know if you can point now at the picture with the girls in the shorts. That was actually a shocking photo. Those women went down the streets wearing really short shorts so they can, it's like a shock factor and they wanted to feel free. So that's when you started to see shorts appear. And also for the women, in the next picture over, she was wearing very slim, tight clothing, and that was like a big no-no either back then. But women were starting to play with their femininity, show their curves. So overall, the 1950s was really playful. So it wasn't just like, your typical greaser look and your A-line skirts. There was like a lot to it. It just depends, I guess, on people's preferences.
Please? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna be talking about the 1960s. And I want to start off with talking about the youth movement that happened during the 1960s, which is what impacted the fashion at the time. And basically, there was a youth movement because a big portion of the population was 18 and younger. So the fashion was really targeted at them. During the time, clothes became more playful, more colorful, a lot of colors and a lot of like cool, funky patterns. Um, and this kind of started with Jackie Kennedy as kind of an influence of fashion at the time, at the start of the 1960s. She kind of stayed away from like, more formal attire as previous first ladies, and she was kind of more effortlessly useful and ladylike with her look. So she kind of started the fashion trends in the 1960s. And then from that, we moved on into having a social movement during the 1960s in which people, especially women, felt more free and they kind of expressed that through their fashion style. So there was also a civil rights movement at the time that, they kind of involved more, people were more interested in like African cultures as well. So like everybody took part in fashion during the 1960s. And like I said, it was more fun. And a lot of the inspiration came from like childlike clothing, if that makes sense. And this led to the mod look, that's what it's called. And basically the mod look includes bright colors and fabrics, patterns that are taken from children's wear mixed with bold geometric prints, puffed caps, and knee-high boots to create a modern new look. Another thing that inspired the 1916 fashion was the space age, and this included a lot of like like some collections at the time made by designers included things like astronaut hats, goggles, white and silver pieces, catsuits and white patent or kid leather, and mid-cap length boots. Um, and then another great influence during the time was Audrey Hepburn. She kind of like had her main influence kind of during the 50s, but she did continue on to the 60s. And no, could you go on to the next slide? Yeah, so are some pictures of like how she kind of transitioned her style into the 1960s. Um, the picture with the white like hat and the glasses is kind of an inspiration of the space era. And then you could see her wearing like her kind of typical look in the green like suit picture that she has over here with the white hat. But it is more colorful than it was before. And then this is her wedding picture, the second picture on the slide. And she's actually wearing a short dress. During the 1960s is when the mini skirt or mini dress was introduced into the fashion. And during her with her wedding dress, she kind of shows how she played into the fashion trends of the time. And then, like I said, the miniskirt was introduced during the 1960s by designer Mary Quant. Um, Her designs included colorful designs that appealed to teenagers and young people who had more disposable income than any generation before. And it differed from the stuffy looks of the older generation and appealed to young women who embraced childlike designs. And then another big influence of the 1960s is a model named Twiggy. Um, it's the one in the left-hand corner, the bottom. Um, she was a model, a fashion model, and Mary Quant's muse at the time, and she basically kind of set like she set the standard of fashion in the 1960s, in the mid 1960s. Um, So yeah, and then I want to also touch on menswear. Um, so for menswear, a lot of what got impacted during the 1960s was like the suits that men wore. They changed from what they were in the 1950s or 1930s and 1940s. They were more playful. They included a lot of stripes and somewhat more color. And during this time, in comparison to previous decades, which fashion for menswear was influenced by like actors, now in the 1960s, fashion trends were influenced by rock stars like where is it? Like sorry, like the Beatles, and Mick Jagger and Jimi Hendrix. That's that's two of them in the bottom, and they kind of set the look for menswear during the time. They wore a lot of what you see colorless jackets, and these jackets are also inspired by the a military look. And again, they like would wear it during performances, music videos, and they really set the standard for menswear at the time. And another typical menswear look of the time is the again, the collarless jackets, which would be worn with slim fitting trousers and heel boots. And again, they are the one who set that for menswear. And then the last thing I want to talk about for 1960s is the hippie aesthetic that started to kind of be introduced at the end of the 1960s. And during this time, for men specifically, they started to wear more flared trousers, jeans, and long hair. But yeah, that is all from my side.
In the 1970s, fashion is very much characterized by the music, political climate, and the new technological advancements of the time. So if you guys think about fashion, there's really not specifically like a style that defines the 70s at all. So there's like plenty of collections, aesthetics, and styles besides, like the what we tend to think is the 70s is just the bell bottoms and the groovy peace signs and hippies, but there was really more to it because of that era. That's where we start to see a lot of more styles evolve during the next couple of decades. So like, for instance, the rise of disco in the 1970s, it was so popular because of the music and also of that film, with John Travolta in the white suit. So they tend to wear mostly like, like flared shirts, flared pants, shiny dresses and shirts, a lot of patterns. They used a lot of bold colors. So I think that from the 70s, music was probably the most that gave such an impact and made a lot of difference. And you can start seeing people trending and going along with it. For the 1970s as well, that's where the rise of polyester and synthetic fibers came in. So that's why it was called the polyester decade. But as you can see, like in the pictures, people were very bold. The men started to go towards more of a femininity, using bolder, lighter feminine colors, exposing their chest. For the women's as well, they started using more feathers. They started using bold colors. And it wasn't just bold colors. Most of them also resorted towards using like very earthy, neutral browns and, like red colors. So apart from the platforms, there was like a lot of variation. So that also started, like the hippie movement and then the disco punk, the polyester, androgynous styles, and also the start of the anarchaic punk style and the wrap dress. So Noel, can you go to the next slide? So here you can also see that the anarchaic style was actually, that's where it started, was in the 70s. And it was a form of people who start rebelling against society, being different. And there was like a lot of political movement towards it. Besides, also you saw people wearing tie-dye shirts. And then some people started to use like classy styles like Bianca McJaggers, who was like the most of the best style icons back then. So because of her, a lot of trends we're still using till this day. And not to mention that Diane von Furstenberg, she also is very much of a style icon because without her, we wouldn't be having the wrap dress. And she also popularized that during that decade. And then we also jump into the 1980s. So if you guys remember the 1980s, I'm not sure if you guys still have parents that were born in the 80s or they were like in the 90s, but most of them had puffy hair, like very thick makeup. It was like very bright colors, but during the 80s as well, there was lots of aesthetics. One of them was probably Princess Diana, that was the most influential with her clothing. But apart from that, there were people that were doing power dressing. There was a lot of sportswear. There was also the trend of the soft romantics, the Bosman sweaters. They also did a full skirts. They did padded shoulders, the new romantic style. There was also post-punk fashion. And there was leotards, tight body, hugging clothing, and also the start and evolving. This is technically the start of hip hop fashion, because in the 1970s, that's where we start to see hip hop start to come out and trend. But over time in the 80s, that's when it actually solidified as an actual fashion style. So besides the leggings, that's where, also we start to see that women start to wear it often and to go out. Can you go to the next one, Noel, please? And here we also have which are the soft romantics. So on the bottom right corner, we have Madonna. We have, oh, I forgot that one artist. I'm sorry, guys. He's wearing makeup with the red hat. But yeah, they categorize the soft romantics. And then we also have the post-punk. So from the 70s, this then later transferred over to the 80s, and people started to get more creative in expressing themselves as well. But they actually use that same method to, be part of rebelling against society, since since the 80s was more business and everybody was going into the industry, women were starting to work. And then on the right-hand corner, that's Azadine Alaya's dress. So in the late 80s, he started creating dresses that were very tightly hugged around the body. So because of him, that's why we have a lot of those same body shaped dresses till this day now, because he actually came out with that design with another artist. And when she wore that dress, everybody needed that silhouette. So it started to transcend into other decades over time.
For the 90s, so basically like the style kind of turned into low maintenance. In other words, like casual, such as slip dresses, high-waisted jeans, strappy tees, and t-shirts. There was also like the rave of supermodels, such as like Naomi Campbell, Cindy Crawford, Linda Evangelista. Basically like the it girls, so that's more for like high fashion. Also like on the rise because of them, like there was like Chanel and like Versace. They were kind of like the face of like fashion and supermodels. Um, there was a bunch of different styles incorporated in the 90s, including grunge and hip hop. Um, so like in the top photo, there's like Winona Ryder. She's kind of considered like a grunge icon, along with like Johnny Depp, Kate Moss, and Drew Barrymore, which is like the one in the middle. Um, and like the 90s style kind of like expanded like worldwide. So like in the top left corner, there's like um I believe it's like I believe that photo's in Korea, but basically like the 90s street style was very popular in Korea as well. And then for guys, it was mainly like windbreakers. Again, like the grunge style and like punk and all that. And along with like hair, people had like very like cool, like wacky hair. And like makeup too. Like even like in the red carpets, like it wasn't like elegant as it is now. It's more like casual look. And then there was also like a pop of colors too, and I think that like transcended into like the 2000s. And then that's it.
Right, okay. So the early 2000s kind of carry on from, the 1900s or the 1990s, around that time. So carry on from that, we have the typical oversized clothing, trying to borrow from pop culture, like the oversized hoodie, the oversized, which is very popular. Aaliyah is also very known for that style. You see it all the time in music videos and also for Halloween costumes. That's really inspired by Aaliyah. It's also known formally now, it's called the Y2K style, if you've seen on social media, such as TikTok and Instagram. So the Y2K is about early 2000s style. That's where that came from. So we have the low-rise jeans, very popular, going tops that no one worn. Metallic clothing was also very popular as well. It can be anything like dress or skirt or top. There was a lot of metal involved, like shiny clothing. We have mesh tops and leather skirts, which is very popular. If you've seen the movie Clueless, that's a very popular movie. Kind of late 90s, going into the 2000s. It kind of goes hand in hand. Like the 2000s borrowed from the 90s. Also, tracksuits were very popular around that time. Any well-known such as Nike was the big one, Adidas was the big one, carrying on from that 90s shift, like I said. Tommy Hilfiger, US Polo, very popular brand of 2000. And graphic tees was also a big thing in the early 2000s. And you kind of see that, well, actually, no, you actually see a lot of the 90s and 2000 trends now because, everything's been recycled. So we're going to go into the, I believe, mid 2000, right? Or now?
2010s. Okay. So during the 2010s, the style really became more casual than it did previously. So I split it into like two sections, so early 2010s and the mid to late 2010s. So in the early 2010s, the high-waisted skinny jean became really popular. Doc Martens were popular like in the 90s, but people started to wear them again with like the rise of social media. Tumblr, grunge became really popular because of Tumblr. Floral pastels, boho style. During this time, like Coachella was just starting, and like celebrities like Vanessa Hudgens, she's really known for like the boho style she did at Coachella. So that really became popular. And also like brands like American Apparel, Brandy Melville, like Forever 21, those brands really became popular during this time. And then the mid to late 2010s, mom jeans became really popular. People started to wear more oversized jeans, bomber jackets, like Shay Mitchell in that picture. I know a lot of people like looked at her style for inspiration, or models like Kendall Jenner. The whole model off duty look really became popular. The Chelsea boot, Adidas Superstar, over minimalism, basics, street style, and Nike Air Force Ones. So during like the late 2010s, people really just became more simple in their outfits, not as like daring with like colors. So it was very like minimalistic, and people looked into trends more. They looked at what celebrities were wearing, like the models, obviously. So yeah, that's pretty much like the women's. And then I'll go into the menswear 2010. Um, Very casual, athleisure was really popular, sporty, clean. Brands like Vans, Adidas, Nike, bomber jackets, leather jackets, Chelsea boots. Definitely, there are still guys who dress like this today, but I think during 2010s, it became really popular. And then today, 2020s, we're just starting the decade, but you notice like blazers, cowboy boots, even like knee high calf boots are really popular. And with TikTok, a lot of people like the Y2K style, since like that style really came back this past year. But they're also the goth style that's still kind of popular. Quirky like jewelry that they like stack on their shirts. Chic and preppy. I feel like a lot of people still like dress like that chic and preppy style, so I think that's still in. Model influences again, so people are looking at like Bella Hadid and what she's wearing. There's a lot of funky graphics, bold prints. People are definitely more like experimental with fashion going into the 2020s. So they don't care like what really people like think. Like they dress more color, they dress more loud and bold. And there's definitely mixing masculine and feminine. So like in this example here, she has like a whole blazer set, and typically you would see that on a man, but I think like going into this decade, people are not afraid to like try new things. And then for the 2020 menswear, definitely there's still guys who dress casual, like I said previously, but there are like those people who um are not like afraid to wear color, funky graphics, bold prints. thrifting is definitely popular. And also like Harry Styles, I know a lot of like people like look at him for influence on fashion since he is very like fashionable. And people, if they were to dress like casual, I think it would be more like fashionable and more effortless. And also, again, mixing masculine and feminine. And I think Harry Styles like really like paved the way for that. Like he wore the dress on like the Vogue magazine. So I think a lot of guys are not like afraid to mix masculine and feminine together. Okay, so we want to hear from you now. What is your favorite decade? Is there a specific style from a decade you think is trending again now? Which decade do you think was the most influential or groundbreaking in the fashion industry? And if you could go back in time, what decade style would you wear? So you could turn your mic on, or you can always just put it in the chat. Please don't be shy. We're open to hearing anything.
Okay, I guess I'll go. So whenever I think about fashion, I always think of my culture, specifically the Chicano culture. So the first thing that comes into mind is in the 40s. I know you guys didn't talk about it, but it's the suit. I always really liked how it always just showed a sense of rebellion towards the government, especially with the zoot suit riots. So I really like the elongated suits, the high-waisted trousers with the cuff at the bottom to expose the heel that they would wear. And then especially with the hat with the feather, it's something I really liked. And then in the decade I like the most is the 90s. I just really like the style. I really like the hip hop style where they would always wear they would always wear like sports jackets, always represent their team. Um, but something I saw with the 2010s and the 2020 decade, even though it just started, a big influence towards fashion is Kanye West. I know I don't really like him that much, but I think he was the one that started the like it made it big about the casual wear with his Yeezy line and using neutral colors. So I just thought I had to mention that.
Thank you for sharing.
I can share mine. So my favorite would probably be late 50s and early 60s because I just feel like those were just like such happy times and such like unique pieces of clothing. Like they were so classy and chic that you can't really find today and like better quality. So
Yeah, I think those decades really were like influential on the fashion industry because I think like Elvia said, like women like started to step out of their comfort zones with fashion, and it was more like a lot of pieces were chic and like effortless. To answer like one of the questions, I think which decade do you think was the most influential again? I also think like the 90s were also influential since like I think a few years ago like the 90s style did come back. A lot of like stores were having clothing that was like reminiscent, like again, like the mom jeans came back, and I think that was popular like in the 80s or 90s, and that came in 2010s. So yeah.
So for my favorite decade, I would say it's also like the 1950s and 1960s. I really like how like I find it interesting how history and like fashion like go together pretty much like with what Juan said, like the suits and the suit riots and the movement that was going on. Like I feel like we could see some of that with history and fashion throughout every single decade. And for the 1950s and specifically the 1960s, I didn't mention this, but during the 1960s, the birth control pill was introduced. And so, like, this kind of gave women like empowerment and kind of a sense of freedom. And they really did express that through like the clothes that they wore, like with the introduction of the mini skirt. And they just showed more skin and they were kind of, they basically stopped following dress code. And I feel like when history is able to influence fashion that much is like something that's very interesting and something that I like, learning about. You don't have to answer all the questions, but any questions, fine.
Do you guys have any questions for us that we can answer? Okay, so if anybody doesn't have anything else, we'll just move on to the Kahoot game.
Noelle, no, we need to go to the next slide.
Yeah, I know, I'm trying to click on. Oh, right.
Oh, so guys, I know that Noelle at the beginning, she expressed how fashion history is very important, and it is. So as you guys can see, like through every decade that we probably seen of pictures, they've been all recycled through, and it's just like a cycle for some reason that when we're as a society are evolving, we tend to pick something that makes us express ourselves and what we're feeling and what political changes are going on. And it's very important for us to learn that history. And I know a lot of us don't like history or reading on it, but you have no idea how important it is when you go out into a career, especially for the creative fields. There's a lot of artists that you guys think like, oh my God, he's so innovative or she's so innovative, they came with something new, but most of them actually borrow that stuff from previous histories and years before that. So for instance, like Harry Styles, the outfit he's been wearing and him trying to bring femininity into men's clothing, it's by David Bowie. And also I know that for people that speak Spanish, there is this also artist named Juan Gabriel, and he's a Mexican pop artist in the 80s and 90s. And Harry even said himself that most of his inspirations in his clothing are actually inspired by that one artist because he was also very flamboyant and feminine with his clothing. So I feel like if we don't learn our history and we don't understand where it's coming from, we won't get very far ahead with things that like we want to be creative with, or we can take bits of history and make it innovative and different. So if you guys, for instance, need something to help with or anything, I put down some sources. So the first source is actually from the Fashion Institute of Technology. They're like a very amazing fashion school, but lately they've been putting up a timeline and putting up articles and like a whole archive of fashion history dating back since ancient Egyptian history. And you'd be surprised like how modern their stuff is. And it still looks modern if you look at it now. So if you guys click on that website, can you just give it a quick link? Click, Noelle? Please and thank you. So that's the website. But if you guys go where it says time period, or if you guys need it for any assignments, they're like amazing. So all those time periods you got from the Middle Ages, the 14th century, 20th century, and it actually describes any possible history. So if one of you guys are designing clothes or you're creating your own fashion line, your own fashion brand, your own fashion logo, or you know, something creative, you guys can definitely go back in there and reference it. Like, you know, Elsa Schiaparelli was from the 20th century and she's trending again just because, you know, Gigi Hadid started wearing her clothes again. And back then people used to think Schiaparelli was just completely, you know, nuts and bananas because the clothes she was wearing, they were like, she can't wear that. That outfit that's right there on the portrait. Oh, no, it's okay. You can go back. On the portrait, the picture that's on the slide, that was actually from the 1800s. And we can see those silhouettes. That was a big no-no back then. And right now we wear them. It's elegant, it's cocktailed. People use it for the red carpet. So it's really, it's the most best thing you guys can do is study it. So we also have the Vintage Fashion Guild. So if you guys are into thrifting, you guys are into finding collectibles, they're an amazing source as well. So if you guys let's say find, I don't know, an old vintage Dior or like a zoot suit, like Juan said, and he finds a specific brand, with that you can actually source the label if it's actually legit or not. But they even teach you about all the artists back then that aren't even mainstream, but were popular in that decade. So they're very informative. They tell you even how to treat the clothing, if the labels are gone, what to find for that specific style when you guys are thrifting, or, you know, they even have also their own fashion timeline, furs, fabrics, lingerie, everything is all in there. So yeah, it's a really informative. I would definitely check it out. Can you go back to the slide again, Noelle? And then also I got for you guys the Ultimate Fashion History, which is on YouTube. This lady, she actually teaches fashion history at a fashion school, but she does them for free on YouTube. But she technically covers like every single topic you could imagine that goes into, you know, like 100 years of Halloween costumes, films, like how art has inspired so many brands and designs. So if one day you guys get a job and someone from, like, I don't know, your boss says, you know what, I want something from the Renaissance period, I want something from the Rococo period or something, you guys can just literally go back there quickly and just have a quick look, because they're trying to find something innovative. But since we were, you know, around like decades or thousands of years ago or hundreds of years ago, for us, it'll be technically innovative because we're coming up with something different that's not seen right now in our generation. So with her, I would recommend also watching. She gives like a little mini crash course from like back to the 1800s all the way till now, the movies, the most modern or upcoming films, and she tells you about the history behind it. So very amazing person. And, you know, I wish we kind of had that kind of classes here on campus because it'd be really beneficial. You can go back to the slide again. And then there's also fashion and textile museums. So definitely check those out when you can. I know that FIDM has their own museum as well. I haven't been into it. I think Anna has. Have you, Anna? Oh, she probably stepped out. Have you gone to the FIDM museum?
Yeah.
Oh, we can't hear you.
Okay.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, the FIDM museum has like a lot of nice clothing. If you guys want to go check that out, that's like the closest we have for a fashion museum. It's even less than as the top 10 fashion museums. But, you know, they're very important to go and you can see them up close. The one that I wish we could go into is like the one in New York, which is the, you know, the one that hosted by the Met Gala. That would be amazing. But definitely check those out when you're in those states, because when you guys want to see up the fabric, what did they use? Maybe their specific patterns or methods of, you know, sewing, or what were their intentions of that period. It could inspire you guys. So we can go back again. And then the next thing I have for you guys is Glamour Days. Glamour Days is also, it's been a blog that's been set for a while, but they only they are actually really cool because they find old videos from like the 1800s, they restore it in color, and you can actually see their fashion, what it was. So like, for instance, that one right there's women in Japan in like the 1930s. So they do like a lot of work, and they do a lot of vintage clothing. So you guys can look back into it. They also have their own timeline. And they also promote brands that are open to this day that actually represent the same type of clothing. They recreate the same type of clothing. So like the House of Foxy, they're known for creating 1950s, 1940 clothing. So if you guys ever interested, they have those resources for you guys. So you guys don't have to look online and, you know, get a result from Amazon. And then the last one, there is Fashion Historians. They're also, I believe, a blog. Yeah, so they have a YouTube channel and they actually go and to the actual places and they try to recreate the same exact clothing, the same makeup they used back then, the same accessories. And their videos are very informative, especially from Greek fashion that was like thousands of years, so literally recreated. But they're really good and informative as well. So check them out. So I'll put all those listings on maybe on Instagram, or if you guys would like me to email them to you, please put your emails in the chat and I would be glad to send you all those links. And most important of all, CSUN has like a massive collection of fashion history books. So, I mean, they have like a lot of them. If you just go, I think it's in the second building, the second floor, it should say there. But if you guys go there, they have like a large collection of history books dating back from ancient Egyptian till now, or different aesthetics. You guys can just have a look in there and you guys are, you know, free to check it out. So some of these books are like worth like hundreds of dollars or 200s and you guys get it here for free. So that's where you'll find me sometimes, is in the books there, because they have so much informative stuff. They even have like books with textiles on it and fabrics if you guys want to see what clothes they used to use. So definitely check those out as well. And we can go on to the next one. Sorry.
Okay. Do I click the, do you have the Kahoot link?
Yes, I will be sharing my screen right now. So everyone, for Thanksgiving dinner, we will be doing a fashion trivia. It shouldn't be that hard, but I mean, I did put in a couple of hard questions in there, but the winner that has the highest points, they will be receiving a $50 gift card on behalf of Trends. So you guys can choose it from any restaurant or grocery store you guys like, or even if it's a Starbucks, it's up to you guys how you guys want to enjoy, you know, your Thanksgiving dinner. So by all means, if you guys can have your phones ready, Kahoot, you just put in the link in there and you put in a PIN number. So I'll set that up right now and you guys can just play. So I wish you guys all luck. So I'll set that up right now.
Thank you, Elvia.
Can everybody see my screen?
I can't.
You can't?
Do I have to stop share and then maybe?
Oh, you're still sharing? Okay, let me try it again. Yeah, stop sharing. Let's see if it'll go. Hopefully it does. It should. Can everybody see it now?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me see if it'll go. Okay, so guys, you guys can start joining in now. So just go to the website kahoot.it, or if you guys have the app already, because I know some professors use this app, go into that app and then put in the game pin or the website, and then we'll start seeing the players appear on the screen right there. I'll just give it a couple more seconds for everyone to join in. I think that is everybody. Is it? Yeah. Okay. So I'll start the game right now. So let's see if we can start it now. You guys should be getting something in your screen. And just answer based on the question that's on the screen with the shape. Okay. Hmm. So thank you guys for participating and congratulations, Salma, for winning the $50 gift card for Thanksgiving dinner. And you guys
Thank
were
you.
really close to it. I mean, congratulations. I know I put them a little bit hard, but you know, it's really good to know your history. So you guys should you definitely study on those pages. And I'm glad, hopefully we can do more of these. I would, you know, we would be happy to have you guys again. So Salma, do not go just yet. We're just gonna do one more slide, and can you stay behind so we can get your details to send it to you?
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Congrats. And thank you to everyone who participated.
Let me stop sharing. And you know what? You can go back to the presentation if you like.
I think that's it. The social media page. Okay, so you can follow all of our social media. We have our CSUNtrends.com where we have like our calendar and all our other updates. But we're most updated on our Instagram, so make sure you go follow there.
Oh, I do have a little bit of a info to do. Next semester, we will be having also the fashion show production class. So if you guys are interested or you guys have anybody that might be interested, please let them know because there will be a limited spot, I believe. But if you guys are interested, email us or send us a message and we'll send you guys the code of the class. The fashion production also does technically like the fashion show magazine. So if you're into like journalism and fashion magazine, that's a great opportunity to start somewhere as well and learn about it. Also, we'll be requiring models. There's gonna, and like also volunteers and help. So if you guys are interested, please send us a message and we'll be happy to direct you guys to that class.
Okay. Thank you so much. So I think now Salma could give her information.
Thank you, everybody. We wish you also a safe and happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy it. Please be safe. And, you know, if you guys enjoy your dinner.
Thank you everyone for joining. We're so glad that you came and learned more about fashion history. And we'll all see you at our next meeting. How do I stop recording?
I think you just click the stop recording button. Just don't hit the pause button, or I should say pause.
That's, I guess I'll just wait till the meetings ends. Okay.
Just press pause, and then when you're about to end the meeting, just press the little
Oh, okay.
the stop sign.